This is the Hyundai i20N, what I believe to be the archetypal original gangster or OG type of hot hatch. Why is that, you ask? Well, it's very simple. It's light, it's cheap, it's basic, it's got a manual transmission, and it does everything that you need it to do for a tarted up shopping trolley, which is exactly what a hot hatch is. These days, however, car brands have maybe dropped the Kool-Aid a bit too much. They've taken it to the nth degree. Cars like the i30N are remarkable cars, but they're heavy, big and fast. Even other examples like the Audi RS3 and AMG A45S are both hot hatches, but totally the opposite. They're more like a hyper hot hatch. They're really bulky, all-wheel drive and really complicated. So what we have here is that basic distilled form, which I think is still the best. Sadly, however, car brands don't agree, and only brands that do build this sort of car now are Ford with the Fiesta ST and Hyundai with this, the i20N. So good on Hyundai for building a car that probably no one's going to buy anymore, even though they've never built a hatch before. Whatever, it is what it is. Is it any good though? Or should you spend more money on an i30N? Well, we're going to answer that question here today by taking this good thing for a bloody good drive out there on some winding roads. We're going to explore the engine bay, have a look at the cabin, and tell you whether you should stick to the OG formula or go and buy a brand new crazy hot hatch. Before we go for a drive and hit the road, let's quickly check out what's under the bonnet and also what's in the cabin. But we'll start with that powertrain. We'll quickly pull the bonnet, we'll go for a walk around and have a look what's going on here. What we have here is a 1.6 litre turbocharged 4-cylinder engine that's mated exclusively to a 6-speed manual transmission. There is no automatic on offer with this car, so it's one for the purist. What are the figures? 150 kilowatts of power, 304 newton meters of torque, and a 0 to 60 time of about 6.2 seconds, which in reality is plenty fast, but when you compare it to cars like the i30N or the ST Focus or a few other things, it is a bit slow. And to be honest, coming out of an i30N and going to this engine is a little bit nuggety. It's not super powerful, it goes all right, it's got a bit of torque, but really it is a bit of a nugget. Another thing we're going to do too is show you how they keep this car cheap by putting it up on a hoist and revealing the rear suspension. You'll be surprised, there is no IRS here. Let's go and have a quick look. Now, when you think performance cars, you think independent rear suspension. Like, I don't know, it's been that way since 1985. You look at this thing, however, and both rear wheels are joined together like a billy cart that you build with your dad in a garage. How basic is that? But you know what? This basic suspension form, it doesn't really change anything, to be honest. Renault Sport have been using a torsion beam rear end in all of their performance cars, Megane, Clio for quite some time. And if anything, this axle maybe gives the car a bit of a unique flavour and feel. So there you go. We've got technology here from the 1970s, keeping this car cheap, but it doesn't affect the way it drives. One other thing we'll quickly touch on here is its exhaust pipe, because it does have a flap inside of it.
What do you have to say about that, mate?
It's not as good as the i30. The i30's flaps are a bit bigger and a bit more loose and a bit louder, but it does the job nonetheless. Boot space. Let's figure out how big this i20N boot is by this week using single-piece cast Japanese wheels. Look at that, guys. We fit 5 wheels in today. 4 15-inch wheels and 1 16-inch wheel. So what's the cabin of the Hyundai i20 like? Well, let's address the most obvious thing first. It is a bit small. I've got about 10 or so centimeters here between my passenger. I've got a little small armrest console. Yes, it is compact, but it is a compact hatchback after all. What else? Well, I love these seats. They're well sculpted, they're contoured, they grab your fat bits nice, and I love this integrated headrest. I think they look quite sporty overall, and they do a good job of keeping you still. Steering wheel is nice too, thin rimmed, stacks of buttons, more than you need, but some good ones on here. We've got 2 for the N mode, 1 for custom, which is your own setting, and 1 for regular N mode or tabbing back to normal, which is nice. A big red button that says rev. When you press that, the car automatically matches its RPMs to your gear shift, so it basically heel toes for you. Kind of a nice thing. Don't know why it needs a big red button, but anyway. Directly in front of that, we've got a digital instrument cluster. I like normal dials personally, but hey, look, these are kind of flashy. You can customize them. They're all adjustable, and everyone likes it these days. 10-inch infotainment, give or take something like that. Got a bunch of useless shit you're not going to use in it, but what it does have is a bunch of awesome performance meters. You can have double tacho if you want, and double speedo. You can have a big spectrum of your RPM on a racetrack. That's kind of handy. Also shows you your gear selection, oil temperature so you don't spin a bearing and get Rodney saying g'day, throttle position, a lap timer, and a few other things too. So yeah, aside from all the useless shit in here, there is some useful shit that you will use if you go on a racetrack, which is quite nice. What else is there? We've got this wobbly stick in the middle, the Millennial Theft device, the manual transmission. This car only comes in a manual. Got a wireless charger, single zone climate control, and a bunch of hard plastic. And that's really it here. Let's jump in the back and see what's going on there. So how much room is there in an i20N? Well, it's a small car, so obviously not much, but as you can see, I have 2 child seats here, and they both fit fine. But here's the real test. If an adult will fit in the child seat, then there's enough room for adults in general, so let's find out. This is the answer, the question to the answer no one wanted, or question whatever. Yeah, look, see, I fit pretty good, sort of. I should say, look, there's enough room for adults without child seats, but look, if you're an adult wishing to sit in a child seat, you're probably not going to fit. All right, let me just unchock myself from the back of this car quickly. Well, there you go, you can fit in the back with a baby seat. Let's take this i20N for a bit of a spin. The first thing I love about the i20N is the fact it's got a manual transmission. I love pressing a clutch and changing gears with my left hand. I don't know what it is about it, but I like being in control. I like determining the amount of wheel speed that's theoretically possible with my right foot, and you're able to do that with a manual transmission. So yes, you do get that connected feeling with it, and it is a nice thing to have, so it's really good to be in a car with a manual. One thing I hate about this manual is the rev hang. For some reason, when you clutch the car, it seems to hold on to the revs. I don't know why, but it's really annoying. I'll quickly show you. I'll go turn right here and I'll give it a bit of a hit up the hill. I'll try changing to third quickly and I'll watch what happens. For some reason, the engine seems to like over rev when you clutch it. It is so annoying. It is possibly the most annoying thing about this transmission. You can't get a clean gear shift. You can, but you've got to be a bit robotic and sort of come off the clutch, then put your foot on the accelerator. You can't just slap through the gears like you'd sort of want to in this car that's a bit bratty, a bit firm and a bit stiff, as you can see. It's moving around everywhere. You sort of want that really quick shifter and you don't want the bloody rev hang annoying it, but hey, it's just one of those things that's really annoying about this car. And no matter how you learn to drive around it, it still sort of rears its head, but look, it is what it is. One thing it is good at though is cornering. We've got a nice switch back here, put it into third gear, and we'll just tip it in. It's got so much front end grip for what is a little car. The tyres are shit on this example because it's a press car, but yeah, wow, it hooks up well and it's still great. It's got an electromechanical front diff, so it does pull you in and out of corners, and you can tighten it up with the throttle, which is lovely on the street, which is where this car is probably best served, to be honest. On the street, it is heaps of fun. You can get away with getting up it, revving it through every gear, and you're not breaking the speed limit like you are in an i30, let alone something like an AMG or an RS3 Audi where you're in jail time the second you breathe on the throttle. This car, you can get up it, get amongst it, while still being in and out of the speed limit. We've got a nice left-hander here which goes onto a straightaway, which I can give it the whole hog and show you how much of a nugget it is, or if it has any acceleration whatsoever. All right, let's go first gear, let's give it a bit of a poke. All right, all the way to red line. Shift light, second gear. Like, it's quick, but as I said, a bit nuggety. Like, it's not super fast, and it's not quick and immediate like a Golf GTI or an i30N. Yeah, nugget is a nice way to explain it. We all love a nugget. They're easy to drive. They've got a bit of power, but not stacks. So if you're a novice driver learning how to drive a performance car, or you want something that's a little bit tame, like a 7 out of 10, 6 out of 10 on the hot scale, which gives you the ability to learn how to drive it fast, this is the best tool for the money. It is really easy to get this car to move around because it's light and little, it has less amount of grip, so it's easy to get it to sort of get its bum to wiggle. So you sort of find the ends of its extremities quite easily. So yeah, I recommend, like most of us, if you're a novice, you're learning how to drive and you're looking for a driving tool to suit your ability, this is a better car to be in than an i30N. However, if you just want to go and hoon it everywhere and you want to nail it from the lights and you want to have a bit more speed with your experience, and you're probably going to find this car a bit slow. But as I said, if you actually like driving, you actually care about driving, and you actually want to learn how to drive better, then the i20N is probably the better choice for you. What else is there that I like about this car? The steering, it's good. Electromechanical steering means it's like every other car. When you adjust the feel or adjust the weighting, it does get better. It's not as nice as the i30N, but it's equally as good. The loud exhaust, I'll turn it on now, that's as loud as it gets. Like, it's sort of noisy, it does pop a bit, but it doesn't crack and bang like the i30 does. So if you're after that full experience and all of the theatre, then this car's probably not going to deliver it for you. But then again, it does cost 15 grand less, or 10 to 15 grand less. Look, overall, it is a great car. I love driving it on the street. I love making it move around. But it does feel a little bit lacking in theatre and some of the other things, the cabin and maybe the ride quality, which we'll touch on in a sec compared to an i30N. This car has fixed dampers, it has no adjustable suspension, so as you can see, it's forever moving around, it's forever bumpy. Here are some horrible pieces of road, as you can see I'm moving around. My man boobs are jiggling, I find it quite annoying. You can't turn it off either, it's just fixed. So one thing you've got to acknowledge with this car is that it's always on, so it's always bumpy. Now, it's not that bad, I guess, because it's quite light, but it's bumpy, so you are going to feel it. You know, it's one of those things with the i30 you can dial it back a bit, this one you sort of can't, but it is what it is. Now I'm going to take this corner a bit quicker this time because I really quite like it. Bung it into third and just tip it through. It's got no grip, this car. The front end's tyres are a bit shit, but yeah, it's still a good car to drive. It's still exciting. The engine still revs good. Just a bit nuggety and a little bit slow compared to an i30N. But yeah, there you go. If you want to learn how to drive, buy one of these. If you want to be a hoon, buy an i30N. It's pretty much that simple. The Hyundai i20N. As a closer, I'll leave you with this anecdote. When I was once a judge for a mainstream media's World Car of the Year Awards, I gave this one 10 out of 10 in its class against the i30 and a few other cars. And there's a genuine reason for that. For normal people, not pig-headed journalists with their head stuff up their bum, they don't know what's going on, but for real people, this is a really, really good car. It teaches you how to drive, and it's easy to drive. That's the main thing. You can get in it, go to a racetrack, and come away from it and actually have learned something. Whereas an i30 is a bit too fast, and it's a bit too much going on to actually sort of learn with if you're a complete novice like someone like me, or like you guys watching. So that's why I really, really love this car. But there are a few things about it that I don't like. The rev hang is absolutely atrocious and shit and needs to go. And on the street, when you're driving around like a regular car, it does feel, as I said for the 10th time, a little bit nuggety. It's not as good as an i30, it's not as fast as an i30, and it's always stiff and bumpy. So there are some things about it I don't like. But as I said, if you want to learn how to drive and you actually care about it and you're not a ricer or a poser, this is your car. It's really good and it will make you Michael Schumacher pretty bloody quickly, I reckon.